It's cold. It's not even winter yet, and we're expecting a Sunday, Monday dump of anywhere between 8 and 20 inches. And then Wednesday, we're supposed to get another dump somewhere between 10 and 40 inches. And then next weekend, we're supposed to get another snow dump. And it's going to snow. How much? So being up on the mountaintop, where we get usually 10 to 20% more snow than what goes down in the valley, it's usually 5 to 10 degrees cooler. The wind is a little bit blowier. Hey, Ghost, good to see you, buddy. So it's right in our face that things aren't what they seem to be. I was just I went on earlier this morning, just waking up, and I greeted you all with prayer and breathing, and now I'm a little wide awake. Had a couple cups of coffee and breakfast, and I'm here at one of my favorite breakfast spots. Had one of my favorite omelets, corned beef hash with mushrooms and onions, with cheese and grits, and a well-done English muffin. Can't beat it. And they always have a newspaper. I read that, and there's stories about on the front page of our Roanoke Times. The big $50 million investment into tech. That's, our big, flagship college in Virginia. And they're investing in the, yesterday there was a big article about the lady who helped start the medical school. And this is about them investing in, genetic modification of humans, transhumanism, and look at that guy. He's just happy. He's getting that $50 million. How much, and the other documents show how Facebook farmed data. Oh, isn't that amazing? You didn't realize that when Zuckerberg, all of these tech guys, right? They're all just poster boys. They're not geniuses. They didn't invent anything. The iPhone, Stevie, he didn't invent this. No. Everything in your smartphone, the screen, the camera, the GPS, the chip that runs it, these are all things that were invented for DARPA. Your smartphone is a weapon of mass destruction, right? Nation bids its goodbye to Bush with praise. Come on, this guy was a war criminal. His daddy was a Nazi. He wasn't even Prescott Bush's biological son. He was the little monkey of a Russian spy. That's what I'm talking about. Things aren't what they seem to be. And even who invented the term, conspiracy theory, the CIA, to disinform the public. If anyone says anything of interest or thought, and how can we, last night we had I'm really, really, really gratified and humbled by the chats that have been occurring for the last few weeks. I appreciate it, when I was out in the hinterlands of the deep green, and I could only, put up, 3 hours of video a week, because, they couldn't be any longer than 5 minutes, because if I went to the library, a 5-minute video off my phone took about 4 hours to go up the tube. Anyway, so, but now that I'm in a place that there's good YouTubes, Wi-Fi's pretty much everywhere, I can do a live chat here in my little restaurant or up top of the mountain, So the last few weeks since mid-October, we've been having, I've been doing a chat twice a day, around 7 in the morning and around 7 p.m. at night. And things like this, the one I did this morning, it was a short one, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And now that I'm awoke with a couple of cups of coffee and have some protein in my belly, I can spend whatever time we need to talk. But, and I looked at the newspaper and I have, that little box down there where, people leave things. I've been looking, if you go onto my channel and you look at that place where all the things I've looked at, I am super diverse, not left, right. I'm looking at everybody's, what they're talking about. And actually, this chat's thing is I'm reaching out. So all of these, Q and Patriot and, Fluffy Bunny and everybody, and that guy who, I should have looked him up, but he is the most watched YouTube. He puts up a YouTube and within a day, 6 million people view him and like him. I mean, he's so monetized. And he's some guy in Norway, and he's just, with little earmuffs on, colored earmuffs. And what he is the Andy Warhol. I mean, no one has said that. I am claiming the observation of this. Yeah, that's the guy. See, even Twitchy knows this guy. Well, and last night I tried to make fun of his name, and I made it to PewDiePie. Is that how we pronounce that? Well, PewDiePie is, and I am claiming the fame of this, PewDiePie is the Andy Warhol of YouTube's. I mean, he stole everything he is doing is straight up Andy Warhol, right? The color combination, how he mixes his images, all of the above. Go look at Andy's movies, his 60 millimeter movies, which were, whoa, it's like, J-Box. J-Box's, Jimmy's are, and PewDiePie, you put them together and you get Andy Warhol's movies. It's like, wow, And I think PewDiePie, he is like Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs and Mr. Bill Gates, all who weren't rocket scientists. They just took, Bill Gates just happened to be around when Daddy Xerox wanted to, take over the person, he did invent, Xerox invented the personal computer because the mouse, the, utilization of military technology packaged in a consumer product, an OS, the operating system that Microsoft is founded on. All of these came from Daddy Xerox. And when Daddy Xerox went to the board of Xerox in New York, he said, okay, we're gonna take over the computer industry by making them personal. Like, what do you mean? I said, everyone in the world will have a digital computing device. No, we can't go up against IBM, they'll kill us. He said, no. He said, that's industrial. I want to, anyway, the morons on his board couldn't understand. So he basically got himself bought out, went back to Xerox PARC, which was the original Silicon Valley, right? And and everyone copied Xerox PARC, right? With being on a campus and blah, blah. And it was a park, not a campus, right? It was open to everybody, even chuckleheads like me, Anyway, so all of that stuff was, basically industrialized. All of what Silicon Valley, all Elon Musk, all of these guys, they are not rocket scientists. They are poster boys, They are guys who the powers that shouldn't be said, okay, we want to rebrand, so we'll let okay, hey, look at Zuckerberg. Okay, you wear that hoodie all the time. That's your brand, Oh, Steve, you wear the black shirt and jeans, right? Mr. Bill, you just wear your glasses. You don't need glasses? Well, put those glasses on, So, wake up, guys. Ooh, wake up. This is the, alarm clock. So, PewDiePie, he is the next branding. He is branding everyone's consciousness. It is this mix of military, industrial, banking, scholastic moronness with the satanic cartoon of all things Disney, right? And the Nazis again. I'm a guy who likes to use the right word, and so the right word for Nazis is fascism. And what is fascism? Well, Nazi stood for Nationalist Socialist Workers' Party, right? And fascism is when your country no longer is a nation state, no longer has autonomy, no longer has, a democratic or republic to be its political structure. It is simply the arm of the corporate state, not the capitalist state, because capitalists compete. We don't have any competition. We have 6 media outlets that are pretty much, all those guys on all those boards are all on each other's boards. We only have 10 banks, and again, everybody on each other's thing, and they all kind of revolve through the Council on Foreign Relations or the Trilateral Commission or the World Bank or the IMF, Anyway, so, and it's not like this is anything new. No, it's been going on since, like I said, back to Babylon. This is Babylon. We are the U.S. of A. is the whore of Babylon, right? So, again, what are we saying here? Good morning. We got a bit of snow, Norfolk, VA. Yep. Oh, the snow is coming in big time. Like I said, gigantic snowstorm this weekend, Wednesday, and next weekend. And Asheville, all my friends in Asheville, back in 92 or 3, it was amazing. I was living in Asheville, and I was this demographer, sociologist who was I worked for the Cherokee Nation, I worked for the Biltmore House, I worked for the city of Asheville, the state of North Carolina, looking at trends and what was, they were trying to rebrand that whole neck of the woods. Anyway, and I lived off the street that was just up the street from the big hotel, I forget, but it was made by Nazis. And Nazis, that's where they took all of, our American soldiers had to stay in POW camps. We put our Nazis that we captured up in fancy hotels. So anyway, and without any barbed wire around them. And what is the name of it? Anyway, it'll come to my mind. It's got a big golf course, and the golf course was like my front lawn. And I had an amazing 3-bedroom apartment with a living room, a kitchen, really nice for $275, and the heat and electricity weren't included. That's how, no money this town had. And everyone but me who lived in that were these old ladies, it was basically Section 8 housing, and I was the only guy kind of paying. And it had a parking space. Those ladies had no cars, so I could park my truck in my car. I had a truck that I drove from upstate New York, from Cornell, and I got myself a car there for nothing. And I drove that around, and then the snowstorm came. And so, I had Noah was in Asheville, and I had a friend of mine who was a climatologist, but he was like Diamond of Oppenheimer Ranch, and that he was a geologist. I mean, he looked at the weather through what had happened a million years ago, and he looked at trends. And my whole thing was looking at trends, right? We were both looked at things that way. And so I hung out with him and his buddies over in the Federal Building, which became now a yuppie palace. And after they built the new Federal Building, anyway, on Patton Avenue. So the bottom line was they were saying, "Oh man, there's going to be this snowstorm," and the North Carolina DOT, they said, "Oh no, we don't see anything coming," and it had been warm there, so they had no equipment for snow removal, right? So this FEMA guy shows up, and my buddy who was working at NOAA said, "Hey, this guy's coming up, and he needs a place to stay. You got that nice apartment, 3 bedrooms?" I said, "Sure, love it." Had a really great circle couch in my house. Was continuation of the avant-garde salon Friday night potluck dinner, right? So he shows up Thursday, and he kind of moves in, and he's going around, and he has this Humvee, military Humvee, and he's got satellite, he's got everything you can imagine. He's got like computer on his dashboard. I mean, he can bring up anything from any satellite. He can communicate to everyone around the world just from this Humvee. It was like pretty, and this was like 92 or 93. This kind of technology was not around, but this guy sure had it. And he was getting the oxygen and exhaust like 8 feet above the vehicle, so he could like drive this thing underwater. It was amazing, right? Or in nuclear holocaust, this thing was set up to survive anything and communicate anywhere to anybody, right? So he comes, he drops his bag. I show him the couch. He goes, fine. He goes, "You want to drive around and show me who is where and what is what?" And I said, sure, no problem. So I took him on a little tour of town, and he went to the fire department was EMS, and says, "Hey, this is going to happen. You guys better prepare." And they go, "Huh?" Went to the police. I knew the chief. And they said, "Hey, this is going to happen." And he said, "Huh?" And he just went down the line. He went to DOT, and he said, "You guys, where's the sand? Where's the salt? You should be putting the snowplows on your trucks." And they said, "Huh?" So, we go back Friday night, the big potluck dinner, and it starts snowing, right? And so everyone is there, and it snows, and about 2 in the morning, when people usually head home, well, there's already a foot of snow. Their cars are covered, and it's really ridiculously cold. And then this little ice storm comes through for a couple hours, like between 11 and 2. So not only is their cars covered with like a foot of snow, but it's got like a 1/4 inch of ice. So they can't even get through the snow, to get to the door. So they all come up, and they're all sleeping on the floor, right? And this guy, Thursday, he had me go to Walmart's and stock up the thing with water and everything, right? So we're all stocked up, and it just keeps snowing and snowing and snowing, and then bam, the power goes out in the whole friggin' town. Because most cities and towns are wired like a tennis racket, meaning the transmission lines and the secondary lines and the tertiary lines that go to your house there's redundance, meaning the power comes this way, this way, this way. So this line, they just hit these nice switches to cut that out, the damaged part, and feed it from another direction. Not Asheville. It comes in one way, goes through the whole thing, and goes out to the... Asheville was a very strange place that had a lot of, everything 600 miles radius of a national laboratory has weird stuff, right? And we were about 170 miles from Oak Ridge. So Asheville had their own little versions of weirdness. And one of the reasons why the Nazis were put in this hotel is that these guys were technically savvy and diplomatically, they were all like colonels. They weren't, like privates. And they were helping with the Manhattan Project. But that's another story. And there was a lot of leftover stuff. And that's why Asheville was wired that way. So those labs that needed big jolts of juice when they were doing whatever they were doing could get it. Whereas if the city was wired like a tennis racket, the load would be so diverse, that couldn't do that. So anyway, boom, a major transformer from the high tension lines blew out. The snow load was so much, and wires were, snapping and cracking, and it blew out the major. And these transformers are like the size of diesel locomotives, right? They're not easy to transport. And the utility up there, which used to be a public utility, but after Bill Clinton basically deregulated because he moved to the center, he got rid of, just like Ronald Reagan got rid of all of the mental hospitals in the United States and dumped 3 million people on the street, which, where do they put those crazy people? But in jail. And then when Billy Boy got rid of, welfare completely, and, just cut up the, safety net into tatters, where'd all those people on the street go? Into jail. And he doubled down on, mandatory minimums and all of the above. And who was bringing in the cocaine and the crack cocaine but the CIA to bag all of their operations that they didn't want to go through Congress. And Asheville was one of these crossroad places. All this shit was going on. And here's this guy who is like, Captain America. He wasn't one of them, but he was a real patriot, and he came from the military and went into FEMA, and he was into saving lives and so we're driving around, and so he's a little bit drunk, and one of the amazing things was that hotel where we kept all the Nazis. Oh, it'll come to me. Really fancy, super fancy. It's like a castle up on a hill with a big golf course and couple swimming pools and a conference center and Grove Park Inn. See, I knew it. I could dredge it out of my mind. And it had it was an amazing place. It was like a Disneyland unto itself for the really rich and powerful. And so that was one of the only places that had a feed that wasn't off of everybody else. And because we were just down the street from it, my little apartment building was off that feed. And in my neighborhood, because this neighborhood was like built by the same people who built the Grove Park. So it was the same kind of architecture, that kind of Tudor look. And our utilities were all underground because these were where the rich people were going to live, and they didn't want to see power lines. So our utilities were underground. And we had gas, heat. And so when the whole city went dark, we had electricity and heat, right? And so I had about, 15 friends who stayed the night that Friday into Saturday. And then it just kept snowing Sunday, kept snowing and snowing. We had 47 inches of snow in just one snowstorm. And in between, we had these little flash freezes of ice. So it was like a layered cake of like 12 inches of snow, quarter inch of ice, another 12 inches of snow, another quarter inch. So it was like you couldn't get rid of it. And the DOT was totally, and the city were totally unprepared. They didn't even have, the snow plows out. They didn't even have the plows on the trucks. They didn't have, the big piles of sand and salt. So the city was gone, right? And the police couldn't get around, the EMF, the fire trucks. We had a bunch of fires because people had kerosene heaters, no fire trucks. Lots of people had heart attacks because they're trying to dig out. How do you dig out of 47 inches of snow and ice? You don't. You just kind of hunker down. You wait for spring. And months before, I was tight with the police chief, and you could look out his back window into the black neighborhood and see them selling crack and meth and heroin and girls doing tricks and guys with 1978 Cadillacs with their trunks full of automatic weapons. You just look out And I used to go to his office and like look out the Venetian blinds and say, "Hey, Cap, what is going on?" He goes, "Oh, I never look out that window. I was told to never look out that window." And gangs were moving in, and you can tell gangs are there when they start tagging the mailboxes, right? And these tags were everywhere. These guys were claiming their neighborhood, but it was in the black neighborhood. So, and how, those mountains, they have no black people. You go to Boone, there isn't a single black person there, right? And, but Asheville did, because Biltmore House, the Astors had servants, and their servants were black. And they had, people, they had a lot of Italians because, the Biltmore House was supposed to be the American version of Versailles. And so they had all these, stonemasons and guys who made stained glass and blah, blah. They had all these artisans. So there was quite a big black community. And in Asheville, the black community actually was better off than the white community in their, same socioeconomic group, meaning the black high school sent all of their kids to college. Whereas the white high school, nobody graduated, because all the white kids of any, higher level of socioeconomic bearings went to private schools, right? So there we were, and no one could get around, and something close to 2,800 people died in the city of Asheville in that snowstorm, because they either froze to death, because Asheville was without electricity for almost 2 months, because they had to drag this gigantic transformer the size of a, railroad diesel locomotive up Route 40. It wasn't until spring that they could do it. And it was a mess. And that snow, 47 inches of snow and ice, because that cold just settled in there for, it was about now that snowstorm happened. And it really didn't melt until May. I mean, the parking lots of Kroger's and Ingles and Walmart's, they had an Everest of snow. Anyway, that's what we're kind of looking forward to this weekend. And nobody is prepared, especially the city here of Roanoke. They're like, forget about it. They don't even know what snow is. So let's see what you guys are saying here. Okay. Good morning. They're just really good pitch that I'm not actually doing. Yep, exactly. PewDiePie. Yep. So PewDiePie is mind control for the masses, based on the aesthetic of Andy Warhol. I used to watch him a couple years ago, but I mean, he's got nothing going except, it's mesmerizing. It's MK Ultra at its best. So, after I kind of was talking about this last night, somebody said that I was the, difference between Mae West and Groucho Marx, right? And it got me thinking. And somebody else said that I was, when I was doing my Cowboy Morning series, I was trying to be, what's his name? Rogers, who died in the airplane crash. And Will Rogers. And the other person, somebody else said I was like, W.C. Fields, right? So here's after I finish the, 40 Days and 40 Nights, I'm going to become the Soupy Sales for the 21st century, right? And I don't know how many of you guys had seen Soupy Sales, but he was just a total wacko beatnik who kind of wore, the 1950s look of Tab Hunter. And he would crack jokes continually, like, I went to the baseball game the other night and with my girlfriend, and I kissed her between the strikes, and she kissed me between the ball, but he said the word, right? And on New Year's Eve morning, New Year's Day morning, he said, "Hi kids, this is Soupy Sales. I want you to go to your mommy and daddy's bedroom, and they are they are really, really, really drunk, and they won't notice you going into their room and open up their pocketbooks and wallets and take all of the folding paper, the green folding paper with dead presidents on it, and take it out and put it in an envelope and address it to, and he gave them his address, and he got like $100,000. I mean, he was kidding around, but anyway, that was the kiss of death. That was the last, he had to go after that one. But he kept saying things like that, and he had his characters. He had this one guy who came on all the time, who was like the rageaholic neighbor who would come on, but he would also play all of these parts, and all of the characters who weren't the rageaholic neighbor were sock puppets, right? There was White Fang and Blacktooth, and that was his, so he had a black sock and a white sock. And he said, Blacktooth, how you doing? White Fang, how you doing? Right? And it was hilarious. And it was on it at, 5 in the afternoon where the kids were coming home from school. And the cartoon he had was Tom Terrific. That was another one. If you watch that show on acid, it was quite deep. But most of the mothers of America were watching it under the influence of a martini or a Manhattan, because the first person I watched that show with was my mom. And she was like smoking cigarette after cigarette and drinking her Manhattan and laughing hysterically. And, and those were the kind of good moments I shared with my mom, and reading books. We read a lot of books together. She loved to read, she loved to write, and that's why I love to read and love to write, right? So she had no real, when she was in her career running hospitals, she was the commandant, right? But when she married my dad, she kind of gave all her, she married my dad in her almost early 30s. She had her. And she kind of said, and all these rich guys wanted to marry. Like Thomas Merton wanted to marry my mom. Thomas Merton became a Catholic priest because he was a Methodist. And he was trying to date my mom. And she used to have these salon parties just like I did. I'm just like my parents in a lot of ways. And she'd have the richest, bohemian intellectuals at these parties. And she'd be in an evening gown, and she'd be, smoking a cigarette, and her and her best friend Gracie, and they would be drinking and smoking, and all these guys would be like, baby, please. And Thomas Merton came in, and my mom said, oh, Tommy, you're so sweet. I love your poetry, and I love the books you bring for me to read, but you're a Methodist. I can't date you. I'm a Roman Catholic. Come back as a Roman Catholic. So he did. He went off and he became a Roman Catholic, but in the process, he had this epiphany, and he became a theologian. And he hooked up, instead of being a Franciscan or a Jesuit, he was like, I'm not quite sure what flavor he was, but he was more of a kind and friendly intellectual like the Marinols, right? So I am like Kevin Bacon. I am 7 connections to almost everybody on the planet. And that's why all of you adepts out there, I'm like, 7 connections to you guys somewhere. We were digging, like there was a guy, Mr. Young, and he knew somebody for, since he was 10 years old, and I knew that guy, right? So very, very brushingly, not like we were best buds, but I used to watch him, right? Okay, what else have we got here? And there's our friend Forever. Hello, my friend. That snowstorm looks like it's going to be here Sunday, Monday, and then something else might happen Wednesday. So I'm definitely going to try to be downtown and not up on the mountain starting Saturday. But let's talk Friday, okay? Okay. Boop, boop, boo. Good morning, everybody. Anyway, so I've just jabbered away. This is my second morning ramble of the day, and it's pushing probably towards 11, And it's been 34 minutes. Okay. So, yep, I will do that, Mr. Forever. So, like I said, I just rambled a lot of stuff that's kind of, coherent, especially with the experience of Asheville not being prepared, and they're going to get hit with another one. I was looking at kids. If you ever want the weather, 411, go to Oppenheimer Ranch with Diamond, and he's great because he's amusing, he's funny, he's great, he's super duper right on. And the other amazing thing is he gives heads up to other sites that, I do it this way, this guy does it that way, and he's really good. You should check him out. And I do, That's what I do. I get a stream. You guys keep saying, you need to watch this, and I keep watching it. So that's why my little chat, my little ramble is so diverse, because before I come on to see you guys, I check out about 10, 20, 30 kind of things, right? Anyway, and last night there was a guy, I forget who he was, but we were talking about this and that, and I kind of dissed science, and it rubbed him the wrong way, right? He was either grew up or was a scholastic scientist, right? And so, I'm like Tweety Bird. He don't know me too well, do he? So we had a very nice discussion. I mean, I didn't burn him. What's the term, that trolls do? I didn't go after him. I just went point after point after point, historic. Most people know this, and this, but it's really this, and this. And he kind of shut up and then apologized. And I said, don't worry about it. It's great that you did that. Brings that information out. Now, this morning before I got a hold of you guys and gals, all our relations, I kind of reached out to all of the right-leaning Q-Norium neck of the woods, right? And they were all having chats, and I just kind of, hi, this is Sensei Al Bob. I invite you to come to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And I do it 7 in the morning till sometime before noon, and then I do it 7 in the evening and till sometime, before 9. And come on, and it's a platform of respect and love and open-mindedness, and we're looking to co-create with, love's co-creation. So that'll be interesting to see if that brings any folk our way and how they'll relate to all our open, loving, dispassionate insights. You don't know me too well, do they? I think Tweety Bird was my favorite, and my second wife was Tweety Bird. She was like 5'5", and the most gorgeous, and she was just so proportionally, amazingly built, and she was an Italian princess / fashion designer. A mug like me. People would look at the two of us and go, how do these two guys get together? Yes, Mr. Foghorn there. So she was definitely Tweety Bird. And I guess I was Mr. Foghorn, because I say, son. So it was, but I wouldn't say son. I'd say my love, my cutie little Tweety Bird, And she was like, you don't know me too well. She would just take people, she never took any prisoners, And why she loved me so much was she hated everybody else. And one of her great things was she would tell people, whenever they did something and then she took out their eyes or something, and they would, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I didn't mean, and she would go, saying you're sorry is not good enough. Ooh, talking about, could I have a little more warm up? Thank you, dears. And so I always give an homage to my Tweety Bird. She don't know me well, do they? Right? So Anyway, so anything else to say? 39. We're going on to 40 minutes and 47 seconds. I pretty much said everything I had to say this morning, from all the things I saw. And I'm very, like I said, humbled and feel great gratitude for all of you and for all the chats we have, because, as Marshall, I think, said, we are all the little pebbles in the pond making a tsunami. And I see within the trends and the math of what's going on, we're actually having an effect. People are actually talking about what we talk about, So that's the kind of power this has, right? So 40 is coming up, and I'm not going to jig off. What I'm going to do is say a prayer for all our relations and all of us, all three of us who are here, that we have a great day. And our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Hope. And in every day and every way, let us take the peace of the earth and make it stronger with love's co-creation. And Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for our sinners, now and the hour of our death. Amen. Hear these prayers. Bring love's co-creation to everyone, all our relations. Let our trials and tribulations be the learning lessons that we need, and not the torments we don't. Anything else anyone wants to add? So it's 40:41. That was the time to jump off, but I will stay around till 40:42 unless someone wants to say something. Okay. 42. So there's 4 of you now. Anyone want to say something? Twitchy, how you doing? Who else? Other than Mr. Forever and Twitchy, who else is here? Yep. I guess have a good day. I'm doing good. It's always good to hear that. I love those teeth. And at 42:42, oh, there's John. Well, okay, buddy. Catch you later. Stay well, everyone. I love you all.